Hello, sweet friends, and welcome back to Fucked If I Know the podcast. It has been a little while since I have been on for a chat, but your gal has been a pretty busy bee. If you've been following me along on Instagram and Facebook, you know that I've just recently launched the Cauldron Collective, which is a 4-month membership for all the things witchy, woo, and why. So the mindset and the manifestation mixed together, and I'm really excited to have that membership launching in January next year. If you are interested in joining in, by the time you listen to this, the doors may be closed, but you can join the waitlist to join in on that in 2022, and I would love to welcome you in. But yes, things have been very busy with the business, and things have been changing. I've dove more into the witchy side, and I'm really excited to be expressing this side of myself. But I've also been absolutely fucking knackered. Absolutely exhausted. And as I kind of ask around my friendship circles, I've noticed that a lot of us are feeling really, really tired too. So at the moment, I'm living in Scotland. And we've been out of lockdown for a while now, and I felt this weird guilt of still not feeling like I am back to my fullest self, still not feeling like I can handle as much as I can in a day. Whereas, pre-pandemic, I used to be able to do a million things in one day. I would work my full-time job, and then I would go and teach that night for 3 hours dancing, and then I would shoot a wedding on the weekend. And whilst, I was definitely experiencing high signs of stress through psoriasis, like permanent nausea for 6 months, I was still able to do it. Like, I still had the cognitive function to do it. And what I have noticed is, even though, as I said, we've been out of lockdown for a little while, that my brain hasn't quite caught up to the level of work that I used to be able to do. And because I've got quite a few of my followers in Australia, because that's where I'm from, a lot of Australians are only just coming out of lockdown, or have just come out of lockdown recently, and have gone hell for leather into the social events, back into work, and back into what their previous routine used to be, and are finding themselves absolutely bloody exhausted. And no wonder why, because your brain has literally been in hibernation mode for months and months and months, and it takes a really long time for us to get back to normal. And I'm here to tell you, as somebody who's been out of lockdown for quite a while now, that I'm still experiencing these slower brain waves. Like, literally, I have moments where I just sit there and my brain seems to just stop working, and someone asks me a question, I'm like, I can't even answer you right now. Or my partner's like, what are we going to have for dinner? And I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I can't even think about food right now. My brain is not working. And this is still happening to me months later. And so I've started to feel quite guilty about this, because I thought, surely by now I would be able to pull my head out of my butt, get the work done, be working at the same rate as I used to be. And I just keep hitting this wall every day. And especially now, because it's winter, so it's getting a lot darker a lot earlier here. And I keep hitting this wall of being like, I can't do nearly as much as what I used to be able to do. And it's really, really frustrating. And I was actually really confused too, because I started to feel quite guilty about it. I started to get really stressed, and then therefore wearing my brain out more, thinking, why can't you do more? Why can't you do more? Being really guilty, really just really negative towards myself, self-deprecating. And then my lovely partner sent me an article that I want to share with you guys today. I'm going to put it in the show notes, the full article, so you can have a read. But it was basically called The Great COVID Social Burnout, Why Are We So Exhausted? And basically what they did was, there's a study kind of done about these people who had moved to the ends of the earth, living in like Antarctica, at these crazy, like really, really desolate places in the middle of fucking nowhere. And basically what people were starting to notice was that because of how much reduced time they had with social interaction and just doing different things, people who were living in these spaces reported that they were feeling duller and a lot less lively. And they called this condition psychological hibernation. And I'm sure that we can all relate to that as well. Like, through the pandemic, you went into a bit of a psychological hibernation because you weren't expected to do as much as you used to do. Your interaction dropped significantly. What you were exposed to was significantly decreased. So basically they were saying, well, there's not many different experiences around us and new environments and new things to trigger our brain to think differently. It does go into a state of hibernation, and it dials us right back. So our brains aren't working at the same level as they used to. And kind of like a muscle, like at the gym, you work really, really hard to get that muscle like really, really strong, and you take a week off and you feel weak as shit. It's like kind of the same thing with our brains. We do all these things, it builds up all these abilities, all these neural pathways and everything, and then it doesn't take long for it to snap out of place, but then it takes quite a long time for them to build back up again. So basically what these guys, I know I'm saying basically a lot, but anyway, what they were saying is it happened to all of us in lockdown. We went to psychological hibernation, and now we're struggling to adapt to a higher level of stimulus. We're struggling to adapt to what life used to be pre-pandemic. And some of us as well really got used to being alone, and some of us quite enjoyed being alone, truth be told. I definitely found it, I mean, it took probably 4 months of that lockdown for me to realize I actually quite enjoyed the slower pace, because I was so used to going a million miles an hour. So I actually quite liked elements of the lockdown. It was pain in the ass, obviously, but there were elements that I really enjoyed. I implemented slower mornings. I had a lot less going on in my day. So when life returned to semi-normal, I really struggled to adapt to that higher level of stimulus, and I'm still struggling to adapt to it. And some days, only occasionally, I kind of miss the lockdown a little bit. I miss the excuse to say no to people. I miss the excuse to be like, oh, people are scared of getting sick, so I can be like, I'm not coming because I'm just worried about getting sick. Don't lie, you all fucking did it. So I know that people are feeling a little bit of this overwhelm. We did get used to being alone, and because our brains are processing at different speeds now as well, they can get a lot more tired than they used to. So they're not used to operating at that speed. They're not used to doing as much as they were doing, and so we get a lot more tired a lot quicker. So I read this really cool thing in this article, and I'm going to read it word for word for you guys. Basically, I keep saying basically, why am I doing that? Basic bitch. Anyway, what they said was, this isn't the only factor that has been shaping our psychology as we live through the pandemic years. One of the things the brain tries to do to help us in stressful situations is use emotional regulation. Often that looks like using our prefrontal cortex, the smart part of our brain, to talk the rest of our brain off of a ledge. So we're using this decision-making part of our brain to also calm down our limbic system when it's getting very highly stressed, and it takes a lot of cognitive energy. So your limbic system regulates your emotions. It's responsible for a lot of stuff. And that bad boy is overwhelmed. So our prefrontal cortex jumps in, as like, girl, you're fine. It's okay. It's fine. Just calm down. Everything's going to be cool. And it's not designed to last very long. It's not designed to last 18 months plus, right? So it's really wearing our brain out. It's making us feel completely exhausted, even after hours and hours of sleep. So it's really, really fascinating that we can go back into these full-time social situations, and at first it may not have a huge impact. Like, you might feel a little bit tired because, like, shit, I'm going out a lot, even though it's the same amount you used to. I'm feeling knackered. I can't, but it's just, you could almost excuse it, and you could understand, yeah, well, I've been in isolation for ages. I've been in lockdown for ages. No wonder I'm tired. But coming out, 3, 4, 5 months later and still feeling exhausted, it's amazing how much of an impact that being isolated can have on us, being, lockdown can have on us. And it's totally normal for you to not feel 100%. It's totally normal for you to kind of miss it a little bit and miss having the excuse to say no and to take it easy. I think a lot of people you have to give yourself a bit of time, right? You really have to give yourself some time in this and learn to say no, which I'm going to do a whole podcast on for you separately, about your ability to say no and execute those boundaries. But when you remove people from these situations, when you take people out of isolation, when you take them out of lockdown, it is going to take time for your brain function to return to normal. And studies don't really know how long either, which is pretty bloody crazy. We don't know how long it's going to take we don't know how long it's going to take to get back to normal. And life does still feel a bit scary for people as well, especially I know people in Australia, because you haven't been able to travel for like almost 2 years now. Life can still feel quite scary. So you've got that stress layered on. There's just so many stresses going on in your brain. So it makes sense why you're feeling exhausted. It makes sense why you're feeling uneasy. And it is all part of your brain's makeup, which is just lovely. But the beauty of this is the knowledge, right? So hopefully after listening to this, you're like, oh, thank fuck, I've got a permission slip, and I understand now why my brain feels so tired. I understand why I feel exhausted, whether you're fresh out of lockdown or you've been out of lockdown for a while. And this is your permission slip to go so easy on yourself and to be gentle. And this is a reminder for me as well, because I am a type A, high-performing adult who likes to do all the fucking things, as you've seen. And I am still struggling with giving myself that permission slip to just go, oh, you know what, 2 things today done is brilliant. You know what, seeing one person or no people in person today is also fine, because that is all my brain can handle right now. We need to be gentle with ourselves. We have to be self-compassionate, and you're going to have to tune in and start to see the signs within yourself of what that exhaustion looks like. So for me, it's a huge dip in my mood. Like, I'll be high as a kite. That sounds weird, but I'll be like, woo, life is great. This is amazing. I feel productive. I'm getting all the things done. I want to see all of the people. I plan all the things because high vibe Gabby decides to plan everything 2 weeks in advance. And then I just hit this wall and it feels really, really obvious to me of like, shit, okay, I'm knackered now. And it's like a social battery literally just ran out. The battery just died. And I have to take myself out of those scenarios, put myself on the couch, watch some cartoons or some Disney, and just zone the fuck out for a little while and just chill. Now, I know that's really, really hard for you guys. I know it's really hard for me as well, but you are not going to be able to do anything from a highly stressed brain cognitive point. You know, if your brain is like, fuck no, this is not a vibe. Whatever you try and force yourself to do is going to be really shit. Your social interactions are going to be rubbish because you don't have the capacity to handle people. Any work that you try and any effort you try to put into work is going to be a load of crap as well because you're not fully in on it. So you just need to give yourself that time to go, you know what, fine, I'm out. I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to have a nap. I'm going to have a tub. I'm going to have a cup of tea, whatever you need to do, go for a walk. Just trust that tomorrow is another day and you will be productive again one day. I promise you, if you give yourself that time to just rest and relax and allow your brain to chill the fuck out, you're going to be so much more productive on the other side of that compared to if you force yourself to be productive when you're really not in the space to do it. And to give yourself permission that this is going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to feel like $1 million and like back to your original brain state pre-pandemic straight away. It could take up to a year. Could take a fucking while. Who knows? Everyone's brain is different. Everyone's situation from lockdown was different. But you just need to be okay with the fact that it's going to take some time to get back to normal. And it is totally okay. It's totally normal to feel exhausted. You're not alone. If you ever need somebody to chat to and be like, Gab, I'm just feeling fucking exhausted and it really pisses me off, shoot me an Instagram message because I am right there with you. I tap out usually at around 3 or 4 o'clock most days. Today it's 5 o'clock and it's amazing I have any human juice left to give you this pep talk, and maybe my brain is getting better. Who knows? Anyway, I hope that helps you guys. I hope you've enjoyed our little pep talk podcast today and this gentle, loving reminder that wherever you're at is cool. You're allowed to be exhausted. Go have a nap, go have a tub, have a drink of water. Everything's going to be all right. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'd love for you to leave a review on iTunes. I'd be endlessly grateful. Or for you to share this on your stories as well. Any biggest takeaways. I absolutely love hearing from you guys and it really does motivate me to continue to record. So I know I have had a little bit of a gap, but I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast and I can't wait to hear what you think. Have a lovely day, night, week, wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you guys soon.